lines. Provisions of the Treaty on Gibraltar and the European Act 2026 published today to come into force on the 15th of July. The treaty will be signed on Tuesday in Brussels. Budget measures include a 10-year public sector pay framework and the equalisation of the state pension age at 60. The airport to be renamed Joshua Hassan International Airport. The opposition leader says Gibraltar needs change, or the price will be paid by its citizens. Unite the Union broadly welcomes today's budget speech, but will ballot its members on the public sector pay proposals. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Provisions of the Treaty on Gibraltar and the European Act 2026, still not in operation, will come into force next week on the 15th of July. The legal notice giving effect to this has today been published in the Gazette.
Regulations gazetted today define the second-line checks area, or Schengen Shack as it's colloquially known, to give effect to the temporary infrastructure arrangements at the airport, and inserts a section to clarify the Act does not affect withdrawal agreement rights in accordance with the treaty. Amendments to the Supreme Court Act to give effect to provisions in the treaty have also been published. Regulations on uninterrupted pursuit will become law on the 15th. The legislation also allows for the establishment of an encrypted radio frequency as a designated channel to facilitate operational collaboration in relation to continued surveillance and uninterrupted pursuit. It sets the terms under which pursuit may take place, with prior warning needed to be given to the competent authorities in Spain or vice versa. Information on the reason for the pursuit and the route to be taken must be given. Continuous updates need to be given, with the authorities of the territory where the pursuit continued taking over. Officers need to be able to prove who they are and be easily identifiable. They cannot enter private homes and places. They would need to comply with the laws of the jurisdiction, as well as file a report there and assist in judicial proceedings. They can carry weapons, but only use them in self-defence.
Fabian Picardo has used his final budget address as Chief Minister to announce a 10-year public sector pay framework, the equalisation of the state pension age for men and women at 60, and a series of measures he described as evidence of Gibraltar's economic strength on the eve of the UK-EU treaty's provisional application. He said he would hand over an economy nearly 3 times the size of that which he inherited, with record employment and rising wages set against the backdrop of a new era at the border.
Across nearly 4 hours, the Chief Minister moved between personal reflection and what he feels will be his political legacy. But this was also, as it always is every year, a financial declaration and a State of the Nation address. A public sector pay settlement plans to restore what the government says is a 12.6% loss in purchasing power since 2019. The Chief Minister said the deal follows negotiations with Unite, the GGCA, the NSUWT and the Police Federation. It will begin with a 5-year recovery period, with annual 2.5% recovery payments. These will be consolidated and pensionable. Public sector salaries will also rise by inflation during those 5 years, although any inflation above 2.5% may be deferred for between 12 and 36 months. Full recovery will apply to public servants earning up to £100,000. Those earning above that threshold will receive a reduced recovery rate of 50%. Public servants with more than 15 years of service will receive 2 additional days of annual leave. He also confirmed that once the estimates are passed, the government will begin filling approved vacancies in the 26-27 complement, including 57 new AA posts in the civil service.
Madam Speaker, I want the House to understand the significance of what has just been announced. For the first time, the public sector pay rise settlement does not simply ask what is owed for the past. It asks, how do we stop this happening again? This is quite a seminal aspect of this new approach. We're not just closing a historical account, we are justly building an architecture that will govern the relationship between inflation and public sector pay for years, possibly decades to come.
Men's pensionable age will be reduced to 60. Women's will remain at 60. The change takes effect as from the 1st of July and will benefit around 1,400 men. The estimated cost is £8 million. Mr. Bigardo said the measure applies to qualifying contributors in Gibraltar and Spain. The minimum wage goes up from £9.50 to £10 an hour. Mr. Bigardo said the minimum wage stood at £5.40 when his government came into office in 2011, meaning it has now risen by 85%. The speech was delivered against the backdrop of the treaty and its imminent implementation. Mr. Bigardo said the agreement will be signed in Brussels next Tuesday and provisionally applied as from Wednesday. He also confirmed he will lay the UK-Gibraltar Concordat before Parliament in the coming days. The government also plans legislation to ban the sale of tobacco products to locally resident people born after 2009. Other measures included a £30,000 housing bursary for new entrants to the Royal Gibraltar Police, available from the third year of service and tied to an 8-year service commitment. There will also be a tax allowance for fees received by Gibraltar resident musicians for live performances, where earnings are reinvested in equipment and instruments. This will apply retrospectively from July 2019. Finally, Mr. Bigardo announced that Gibraltar's airport will be renamed Joshua Hassan International Airport to reflect the contribution of a man he described as the father of the Gibraltarians. Mr. Bigardo said no budget is delivered in a vacuum, pointing to the war in Ukraine, the war affecting the Strait of Hormuz, energy prices, global inflation and trade uncertainty. But he said Gibraltar's GDP had grown from just over £1 billion in 2011 to a forecast £3.25 billion in 25-26. He described this as almost trebling the size of the economy, an increase of more than £2 billion. GDP per capita, he said, had risen from just over £34,000 in 2011 to just over £85,000 based on a resident population of 38,200. He said this placed Gibraltar third in the world on that measure, ahead of the UK, the US, Spain, Switzerland and Singapore. He said the yearly average number of unemployed Gibraltarians in 2025 was 16, compared with 442 in 2011. He said the second quarter average this year was 7. The number of employee jobs has risen to 32,000, up from 22,000 in 2011, an increase of almost 10,000. Mr. Bigardo said government revenue had risen from £393 million in 2011 to £883 million in 25-26, an increase of 125%. He noted that revenue had grown year by year, with a dip only during the pandemic period. Debt and refinancing formed another major section of the address. Mr. Bigardo said the full cost of the COVID pandemic to Gibraltar's economy was £425 million. The government had created a £500 million borrowing facility during the pandemic and has now drawn £475 million under what he has now renamed the COVID Treaty and Security Facility. He said the UK had been prepared to continue its sovereign guarantee, but Gibraltar could now refinance without needing it, on the same terms as if the UK backing was still in place.
We must all be very proud indeed to have demonstrated that we can borrow on the same terms now on our own 2 feet. But it's also true to say that the level of support we've received from a Conservative and a Labour administration on this is a testament to the confidence there is in the public finances of Gibraltar under our stewardship and the economy of Gibraltar.
He announced the new annual debt repayment commitment of at least £5 million or 10% of any surplus, whichever is greater. Net public debt stands at just under £700 million or 21.4% of GDP. Aggregate debt stands at just under £900 million. Mr. Bigardo said net debt would have been around £200 million but for the pandemic. Mr. Bigardo ended on a personal note, thanking and paying tribute to his cabinet colleagues, the staff at Number 6, and saying that they had helped him through the toughest professional and personal moments of his time in office. He said he would leave Gibraltar as its only unbeaten political leader. Mr. Picardo said the building itself would not miss him, and that he would not miss it. But he said he would miss the people there every day for the rest of his life.
Thank you. One day, my beloved children, you will understand everything. I think I'd better not continue with that bit, Madam Speaker, and just go on to the bit that honourable members love. What is it? Madam Speaker, after all of that emotion, there is a cold, hard job to be done here. To either approve or reject a budget to spend nearly $750 billion on providing public services to our community. For the last time in presenting an appropriation bill to this House, Madam Speaker, I commend the bill to the House.
In a statement this evening, the government has confirmed the airport will in fact be called Joshua Hassan Gibraltar International Airport. Now, for his part, the leader of the opposition told Parliament Gibraltar needed change, or the price will be paid by its citizens. We are at a democratic crossroads, Keith Asabardi said, claiming his party would offer a more transparent, serious and respectful approach. He added Fabian Picardo has increasingly exhausted public trust. Mr. Asabardi warned that, despite the Chief Minister stepping down as party leader, this would not mean the end of an era in which public finances have become more opaque, and where there has been a dangerous blurring of distinctions between party, government and the state. The GST leader said this way of doing things was now endemic in the GSLP government, and the Chief Minister's hand-picked successor, Gemma Arias Vázquez, would simply mean a continuity of a culture of fear, where independent scrutiny is weakened through political pressure. Mr. Asabardi said there is a deep malaise in the party, with recent scandals tainting the entire administration. All ministers endorse each other's actions, he said, and these behaviours belong to all of them. The Speaker intervened when the opposition leader was talking of the government's reaction to the Openshaw report, saying accusations in the report are currently before the courts.
New faces, but old practices. Because, Madam Speaker, the behaviours that we have seen and the excesses belong to all of them. It belongs to the successive governments that he has led, and also this year, very unceremoniously and in full technicolor, belongs to all the current ministers without exception.
The leader of the opposition spent a significant portion of his almost 2-hour address on the Principal Auditor's report and Sir Peter Openshaw's report on the McGrail inquiry. Keith Asabardi said the reaction to both showed a terrible intolerance to criticism, with a parliamentary motion rejecting the report, backed by each minister. A report, Mr. Asabardi said, was deeply critical of the Chief Minister. He said politicians in the UK would have been compelled to resign. The GSD leader said Sir Peter Openshaw recommended legislation on conflicts of interest, but lessons had not been learnt by this government.
So faced with the option of either backing him or sacking him, ministers opted to back him when the Parliament considered the motion of no confidence in Mr. Picardo in January this year. In doing so and supporting him, each and every minister owned and condoned the improper actions too.
What are we saying to young people about standards of who occupies public office? He asked. In his assessment of the state of the nation, the leader of the opposition pointed out personal tax cuts had never materialised and manifesto promises were not completed. Victoria Quays is still a pile of rubbish, he said, as well as highlighting plans for the Rook, police station, fire service and cruise terminal. He said a full decade after they were first promised, families are still waiting for their homes in Sir Bob Palliser Mews and Chatham Views. Instead, he said, the web of companies has become a jungle and gross debt has more than quintupled.
The off-book accounting has now become so large that the majority of large transactions seem to be off-book and unaccountable. When we have gross debt, indirect and direct, of around 2.6 billion and major off-book transactions of well over $1 billion.
Keith Azzopardi said when we do not have accountability or even explanations of the use of hundreds of millions of pounds, this is a problem. He pointed to a company, the Community Credit Union Cooperative Limited, he said has dished out loans to companies or individuals to the value of £114 million. But despite repeated questions, no information has been provided as to who the loan recipients are. Why does this matter, he asked.
Because it means worse services, less jobs, fewer opportunities. Because if others are given preferential treatment or jobs or contracts or money, that may not be merited or they deserve, there is inevitably less money for you, for the citizen.
Keith Azzopardi also highlighted departmental overspend in the region of £79 million. Only 6 departments kept to their budget, he said. Refuse collection overspent by £5 million, the GHA by £32, and there was £1 million in ex gratia payments made by the Chief Minister's office. The total overspend, he said, is £187 million. If Gibraltar had kept to its budget, imagine how much better off we'd be, he wondered. While Mr Azzopardi agreed with equalising pensions, the increase to the disability benefit and the public sector pay increase, he asked, what about private sector workers who have also suffered from the cost of living crisis? People should keep as much of their hard-earned cash as possible, he said, and are not there to bail out the government from waste or abuse. The leader of the opposition said his party would be voting against the appropriation bill. He warned people not to be taken in by what he described as attempts at electioneering. Let the election come as soon as possible, he said. We are ready.
Unite the Union has broadly welcomed today's budget speech, saying it delivers on some of the commitments within its 2025 dispute resolution agreement. However, in a statement, National Officer Stuart Davies says Unite has not accepted a proposal on sectoral claims, with the union repeatedly stating it wants to see public monies going into public sector pay.
Unite says the negotiation process has fallen below what the union expects from a robust negotiating procedure, which it claims has left a requirement for further dialogue. Saying it would be churlish not to welcome the increased minimum wage, Unite maintains more needs to be done in the private sector, specifically around the issues of the living wage, minimum employment standards and 0 hours contracts. Finally, Mr Davis says the equalisation of the pensionable age cannot be underestimated and is something the union has long campaigned for. He says the government is reversing a trend of making those that contribute towards funding pensions work longer to receive that pension, using the example of countries across Europe, some having raised state pensions to almost 70 years of age. The next step for Unite is to consult with its members, who will be balloted on the public sector pay proposals.
You're watching GBC News. After the break, we wanted to know your reactions to some of the announcements made in today's budget address. We took to Main Street to find out. Back in just a few minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, budget measures are ultimately most keenly felt by the man or woman on the street. As such, we were in Main Street this afternoon and first asked how lowering the pension age for men from 65 to 60 could affect you.
That's a welcome change.
It's a good move, but at the same time, although I'm a woman, I think that us women should have gone up maybe to 62 and the men come down to 62 as well and both meet there instead of just bringing them down to 60, and now our children and grandchildren and everything will suffer this decision.
Well, it's most welcomed, and I'm looking forward to learn if it's going to be
retrospective or not. So it's good news for all guys over 60, of which I'm one.
Well, I imagine my husband will be very happy about it. It makes sense. I'm never really sure why they were different to begin with, since I'm pretty sure we all start working at about the same age anyway. So to me, it seems logical.
It's about time that happened, because I don't think it was fair for men to be discriminated in such way. Even though women were already at 60, men still had to wait till they're 65. So this is a great measure which will be widely accepted, obviously.
I think that's great, especially ahora que ya me está siendo más mayor.
The announcement of a 5-year programme for the recovery of a 12.6% loss in purchasing power for public servants is arguably one of the most wide-reaching of today's measures, with an annual cost of living increase capped at 2.5%. Again, what's the impact of this change for you?
I think cost of living has been thorn on our side for a while. Everything just keeps going up and up. So that seems... that's a step in the right direction, I think, as far as cost of living is concerned.
I think I can understand why it's something that is in place, but I do think there needs to be something similar to ensure that wages of private sector workers are also increased in line with inflation, because a lot of jobs, even now, for example, with the recent residency requirements that have been brought in, I think the salary at 37,500 or more, which a lot of jobs, even non-entry level jobs in Gibraltar, aren't higher than that. And so, to me, I understand exactly why that's being done for public sector, but they need to do something as well for private sector to ensure that people aren't getting priced out of their homes.
Most welcomed. Prices are rocketing, so I think that's going to be welcomed as well.
And with changes to our international identity brought on by the treaty, the Chief Minister announced the renaming of our air terminal. So what do you think of the new Joshua Hassan Gibraltar International Airport?
Well, that's great, because Sir Joshua Hassan has been a great figure for Gibraltar and given us everything we have right now. And yeah, really happy about that.
Well, if that's the name that's been chosen by those in power, so be it. I just think there's other names that could have been, suggested. For example, you've got JFK, you've got Charles de Gaulle, you've got John Lennon, you've got... and I just think that maybe something like Sir Winston Churchill would have been very appropriate, since it's Sir Winston Churchill Avenue. It was a military Air Force runway with Spitfires during the war, and I think it would have been great to have named the airport Sir Winston Churchill.
I think it's a really interesting change. It reflects that a lot of airports around the world are named after very important people or influential people to that city, that place, that region.
Well, it's okay, no? One of us, con que sí, I think it's okay.
I mean, it's nice to honor the man, I suppose, but I did like Gibraltar International. I don't know, maybe it's just I'm just set in my ways in that sense.
We move away from Parliament over to football. Gibraltar's club European season is up and running. Lincoln Red Imps have won their first leg of their Champions League qualifier against the champions of Andorra, Interclub Descaldes, down at Europa Point Stadium. Jose Maria Ruiz was there following all the action. He brings us more on how the Red Imps got the job done.
Wow, what a game it's been here at Europa Point. Lincoln Red Imps have hit the ground running as they've kicked off the Champions League qualifying campaign with a 3-1 win over the Andorran champions, Interclub Descaldes. What a game it was. Within the first 25 minutes, Lincoln were already 2-0 up. Manuel Toledano was taken out in the box within the first 20 minutes or so. Nano, the left-back, stepped up, converted from the penalty spot, and then the striker who went down the box, Manuel Toledano himself, got the second goal of the game. The away side did bring one back just before half-time. It was an own goal by Christian Rutens, which meant it was 2-1 after the first 45 minutes. But Lincoln came out looking the energetic side that they are in the second 45, and summer signing Facundo Alvarez with a back heel made it 3-1. There was then more chances for Lincoln to extend their lead. Youssef Idrissi struck the post, as did substitute Garcia, but it ended 3-1 and a vital 2-goal cushion the taken to Andorra next week. Joining me now is Lincoln captain Bernardo Lopez. Bernardo, what a terrific start to the campaign.
Yes, to be honest, it was a tough game. We knew that since the draw, and as last year, we did a great preparation. I think we did everything that our manager told us to do. It was a great game. Of course, we're happy with the win, with the result. Still a week for another game. We're going to work hard. Rest tomorrow, rest tonight, back tomorrow to get into the next game, prepare everything to try to win again or to do the best we can to reach the next round.
You really took everything the manager said to heart for this game. A new manager for Lincoln Redims, Juan Pavon. What have you made of him and a perfect start to Lincoln life for him in the dugout?
Yeah, I think he had a full month with the players. Well, not a full month, I think that he had like more or less 20 days with a full squad. He tried to do his best to give all his information, all his ideas, and I think he did it